So in this video I'll be sharing a visit to a beautiful Japanese garden, showing what inspired me, how I brought it home, and there'll definitely be some ideas that you can use in your garden too. And if you stick around till later on in the video, I'll be doing some slip potting. Hi there maple fans, and in this series of videos I'll be sharing what I do throughout an entire year on a monthly basis. Please note that these months are based on UK timings, but of course can easily be adapted to anywhere else in the world. So it's still relevant if you don't live in the UK, but if you do, this is in Cornwall in the southwest of England. A beautiful location that starts off with a beautiful archway there just to greet us, which is always very important, and straight away into sort of Japanese maples on the left hand side. So on this video I left the soundtrack on, which is not what I normally do, but actually the crunchy gravel just sort of says a lot really. It all adds to the ambience. Very peaceful, very quiet location, and a great use of some sort of square, angular ornaments there, just to sort of as a contrast against the sort of very natural looking environment, I suppose. Great view across the lake there to a little shelter, and then water and the sound of water is very, very important, to be honest. Some of the trees here are very old, as you can see, and indeed of some support. I think it's also very interesting how you've got a path that splits two ways here. It's which way do I go sort of scenario. Things branching and going off in different directions works very, very well. And then we had a tree there that's very open structured. Looks like a Desojo or something, so you can see through that. And here we have a path leading to somewhere to rest and somewhere to sit down, but are covered from the rain, because these gardens are quite lovely in the rain really, so why not have some shelter? All things to kind of think about perhaps. And I think another lesson here is that you can have a nice sort of little offshoot, a secluded area that's in a little miniature garden sort of in itself really. So a great location for this statue. Few coins on there, someone's been contributing, which is always nice. And once again a sort of very open sort of structured maple. Some of these are very tall, and it's also worth looking up because you can see there's a canopy of trees, and it's always worth remembering where Japanese maples come from, in the sense they're understory plants. And just to say, if you'd like to come with me on my Acer journey, please do like and subscribe to my little channel. It really, really helps. I've also recently set up a Patreon site, so that's a great way of supporting me too, and help out with some of the costs of my excursions really. There's also the offer of some personal help, if you'd like it, either in a group format or at a one-to-one basis. So up until this point in the video I probably could have fooled you. I could have said this is in Japan, but I think the English church bells kind of give things away a little bit. Apparently this happens every other weekend, so sort of an interesting ambience, should we say, but nonetheless quite pleasant. And here we have some sort of driftwood, a sort of Zen garden set up here as well, why not? If anything, these are the much more structured kind of gardens, but a great reminder that actually Japanese gardening is about mimicking nature. So those are supposed to be islands in the sea, which is interesting, whereas sort of European gardens are much more formal in structure and layout. And they haven't forgotten here there's a nice view over the back as well. So I really like this section actually. You've got a monument there on its own in some space, which is good. And then you've got these three sort of giant saucers, each of which have got gravel in them, and then you've got rocks inside those. So I thought that was a really interesting feature, and something again to be inspired by and think about for later use perhaps. Great use of bamboo all over this garden actually. Again, it just gives some form and structure to it. And the maples don't dominate, they're sort of part of the scene. They're beautiful, of course they are, and this channel's all about them. But in fact, the way they fit in with everything else, there's azaleas there, there's camellias elsewhere, it's just quite lovely really. And you kind of get a feel for texture, because you've got grass, you've got moss, you've got sort of different shapes as well, which all mix and matches really, really well. It's good to note this garden's very three-dimensional. It's sort of on the side of a hill, I suppose. So you've got some height to it, you've got waterfalls, which is always lovely, and a nice expanse of water with some koi carp in it as well, which is just fantastic, to be honest. A lot of upkeep though with water, so we'll bear in mind what we can do with that in a bit. So here we've got kind of a decked area, but even when it might get a bit uniform and boring, they've sort of interspersed the decking with a different material there to sort of break it up a bit. We've got a little path on the right hand side leading up to a monument there in the background, which is fantastic. And what a great planting this is on the side of a bit of a hill. You've got the maple sort of coming down and looking just great, and then you've got a weeping variety here as well to accompany it. So we haven't all got this, but sometimes we can do a mini version of it, or we can give it some thought. And it's lovely to be able to get inside there and see all the structure to it as well. So interesting to note that as well as the ground planted trees, and other plants of course, there's one in a pot there. So they do use pots indeed, and as we've seen before, not really thought about using it for ornaments before, but you know, that looks very good. Lots of moss there on the right hand side because they can get away with this. It's very damp, and some great use of maples there against water. And something that we'll come back to shortly, this is a Kanakloa, which is Japanese woodland grass. Looks absolutely fantastic, and where you've got a path edge there, it just breaks it up. It's not terribly windy here, but where it is windy, as we'll see in a bit, it looks great because it kind of flows with the wind. So very, very, very nice indeed. I've got a bridge here, we're just going across, we can see some lovely views. And again, it's a Japanese garden needs some space. It's no good crowding it too much. We need to be able to see through it as well. So the planting's very clever. So there's many different types of trees here. Hostas there, really, really good. Love shade like maples do, so they accompany them extremely well. And again, just another view. So we've got the same structure there from two different views completely, or multiple views, which looks fantastic. And onto the briefly to the shop, loads and loads of bonsai here. So if you are living in the UK and you're a bonsai fan, there's a lot to choose from. So that's worth a look. And they had a delivery of maples as well. So there's quite a few different varieties of maples here. Nothing too wildly unusual, I suppose, but very, very nice examples at a very reasonable price, to be honest. So I'm quite proud of myself. I didn't buy any more maples. It's always tempting. But this is Bodmin Nursery, and they had a good variety of Kanakloa, which is fantastic. Also a local nursery got these pots, which I quite liked. I was looking for something sort of low and wide for the grass, really, to be honest with you. So buying pots with plants, I think, work. That's the back of my boot. My son's shoe, just adding a splash of red colour to enhance the Japaneseness of the pots and the plants, I suppose. So I should have mentioned I was quite careful to get the right height pots here. So I want this to grow outwards. So the grass I bought is about the same height as the pots, which is kind of absolutely fine, really. And here we are with the first one, Macra. So Macra is the sort of generic one. It's almost like Atropopereum in the maple world. And that does very, very well in sort of fairly sunny conditions. This is Aureola, which is a kind of gold rimmed leaf one, variegated form. So that's very nice indeed. And finally, one I hadn't seen before, which is mulled wine. So these things come in very, very many varieties. But as you can see, they blow around in the wind. They move beautifully and add that sort of little bit of softness to a garden, really. They grow by rhizomes, so they spread sideways like bamboo. And sort of using some tips from what I know about maples, I think it's okay to pot this time of year, not much later than this, because they've got the rest of the summer to kind of grow roots and get some insulation around them. And what I've done here is slip potted them. So you can see the plastic pot's still around the little plant there. And this has the benefit of not disturbing those roots. As we'll see in a sec, there's plenty of the roots actually. I had already looked to double check this, as I do with maples really. I only sort of want to repot when there's lots of roots available. So just packing all the compost round quite firmly. This is just common or garden, generic compost, nothing special at all, to be honest with you. And that's what it looks like. So we can make sure we sort of get it central, it's looking okay. If you've got anything, any kind of plant that's a bit off centre, you can use this opportunity to recenter, which is always useful. And this is where the magic happens. So if we pull that out, we're kind of left with a hole, which is exactly the right size. It only kind of works with plastic pots because they're nice and thin, to be honest with you. But it does have that advantage that it's all going to fit beautifully well, and I'm not really disturbing the roots at all. At the end of the day, this plant was perfectly happy in the pot it was already in. So the less I can mess around with it and just give it some room to grow for the remainder of this year and in future years, then kind of the better. So off falls the pot there. As you can see, I'd already had a look at this, which is why it's loose. If it is a bit tight, you can always give it a squeeze and sort of a little pull really. But that then beautifully fits in there at the kind of right level, I suppose, as well, really. So the glaze on the inside of these pots comes down about an inch from the top, or about 2.5 centimetres. And that's what you want to leave, because I want to put a bit of bark on the top of these. Some mulch doesn't do it any harm, and it stops sort of weeds getting to them. And also it's going to keep the grass fairly moist, but not too much so. So this is free draining compost. I've got the hole at the bottom with a bit of landscape fabric over it. It will run through quite adequately, but we know what happens to grass. I mean, you know, it goes all yellow if it dries out. We don't want that. So there we are, all potted up, mulch on the top, watered in, and I'm going to try it in that position to start with, but as always, it's in a pot. It's like with my maples, always love that. They can always be moved if needed. So just a quick flashback to the garden. I don't have a real pond. I don't have the room and I don't want the uptake, if I'm being really honest. So what I decided to do to get that splash of red, and as a bit of a homage to that pond really, I've just 3D printed some koi carp, flipped the mirror image and changed the colours to make them look different. So just a few still shots now, which I hope will inspire you. I'll be on the lookout for these. The best thing to do is sort of keep a note or a log in your head at least of what you're looking for. Those pavers are lovely. Great combination of some sort of pruned, rounded bushes here on the left. We've got some grass, we've got a maple that's tall on the right as well. That looks very, very effective with the path down the middle. This guy would be difficult for me, but you never know. Very, very mossy, but it all adds to the age and the character of the ornament, which is just brilliant really. These saucers on the right hand side, I don't know where to get pots like that, but one day I'll come across them, or a bit of research, I might be able to find them really. Perhaps you know of some I can get hold of, and perhaps you can leave some comments below. We've also got a lovely bit of structure here. We've got the Buddha there as a sort of focal point, which is looking lovely. And having a squared off angular ornament really kind of contrasts and with the roundness of the saucers on the right hand side, the bamboo, the sort of natural foliage that's about, works very, very well. Here we've got an Acer on the left, we've got grass, we've got another low Acer on the right, all working with the moss there in the path, the blue pot there in the background to sort of add a bit of a focal point. And even sort of the boards, mixing and matching those, and the sitting area on the right hand side having a sort of angle to it rather than just being straight, kind of all adds interest. Lots of angles and shapes there in contrast with the natural surroundings, which looks absolutely lovely. And then as you leave the place, you've got this lovely, lovely sort of exit, this lovely bridge, and then again you've got an archway at the end.